Do you think God needs to protect herself from anything? We have to get out of the victim consciousness and the fear-based programming of the old world, which means you are automatically attacked. That's automatically something really negative. That's something that can harm you. You better watch out, everybody. Oh, you need to protect yourselves. Does God fear what someone, some being, some quote unquote negative energy is going to do to her? It doesn't even make any sense. And yet we live where we're continually being programmed, and we don't have the awareness that we are continually being programmed. Everybody out there's like, oh, unplug from the matrix, and then you go and believe all this other bullshit that a lot of people in the collective are dumping on you. It's all just programming. Do you consent to that program or not? Now, if you consent to that being your reality, when you are lower levels of consciousness and you do live in what patriarchy brainwashed us to be, in a system of duality where there's right, wrong, good, evil, evil's out to get you, it doesn't mean evil doesn't exist. If you are in fear of it, you're consenting to the rules of that level of frequency. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm Rachel Fiori, one of your hosts for this episode. I am joined today with our other co-hosts of this podcast, Ellie Lee and Danny Morley. Welcome, team.
Thank
Hi,
you
Rachel.
very much.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello. So the three of us are going to dive into a topic that came up. Questions came up about this in, I believe, one of our business meetings in our organization. And so we decided to do a podcast on psychic protection. The myths, the truths about needing to protect yourself or not needing to protect yourself. What really is the truth? How do we guide ourselves? How do we keep ourselves safe from psychic protection? So where do you guys want to start with this topic?
I mean, personally, for me, before I found you and your teachings and everything, I was always buying necklaces that told me that it was going to protect me. I was always listening to these like meditations, and I always put myself in like this like angelic bubble. And like if I was in this angelic bubble, nothing could have penetrated. So I was doing all of these things because I didn't understand what I was feeling, or like sometimes, when I would get hit by something, I didn't know what I was. So I was always searching for, how do I protect myself from these entities, or how do I protect myself from, anyone throwing things at me and things like that. And I think that's where a lot of people are at, is constantly trying to find visualizations or actual physical items, like the crystal carrying. I knew this girl who would carry around 20 crystals with her, just to protect herself. And so I'd love for you to start there, because I think that's something that people are always trying to figure out how to do, and no one really knows what they're doing or how to do it.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. So first, I think just bringing up the difference between psychic attack and the ability to just feel, experience, and translate energies. So just because you feel a negative energy around you, or when you go to the farmer's market or the grocery store or the mall or someplace shopping, or you're running errands and you feel a lot of negative energy, or you just feel negative energy in your home all of a sudden. It's understanding that we are, first and foremost, we are nothing but energy. We are energetic beings. We can dive more into that and what that actually means on a quantum level, if we need to here. But we are energetic beings. Every single thing in our experience is a form of energy, period, end. So when we feel negative things, is it really a psychic attack? Or are you just experiencing negative energies that you're experiencing? And understanding what to do with those quote unquote negative energies. They're not necessarily harmful, or if they are, it's learning to elevate to a level where you can translate energies, You learn this in our classes if you're a student at Masters of Self University, by the way. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, enroll in 2025. You'll learn all this stuff firsthand. But when you come across energies and you're just experiencing them or feeling them, what does that energy even mean? So we have to get out of the victim consciousness and the fear-based programming of the old world, which means you are automatically attacked. That's automatically something really negative. That's something that can harm you. You better watch out, everybody. Oh, you need to protect yourselves. Do you think God needs to protect herself from anything? Does God fear what someone, some being, some quote unquote negative energy is going to do to her? It doesn't even make any sense. And yet we live where we're continually being programmed and we don't have the awareness that we are continually being programmed. Everybody out there's like, oh, unplug from the matrix. And then you go and believe all this other bullshit that a lot of people in the collective are dumping on you. And then you just start living in that particular programming. It's all just programming. So we'll pick this apart, but here's the simplest thing to understand about all of this. It's just a program. Do you consent to that program or not? Now, if you consent to that being your reality, when you are lower levels of consciousness and you do live in what patriarchy is taught us, brainwashed us to be, in a system of duality where there's right, wrong, good, evil, you can be hurt, evil's out to get you. It doesn't mean evil doesn't exist. It means, can evil hurt you? Do you have to protect yourself from these energies? Well, if you're that level of consciousness and you live in duality, you've consented to that reality where you can be harmed, where you can be under psychic attack, and it can actually interfere with your life or it can hurt you in some way. If you consent to that, if you are in fear of it, you're consenting to the rules of that level of frequency. And if that's where you're choosing to vibrate on an energetic level, then yes, carry the 20 crystals and wear the 19 necklaces and give your angel energetic bubble, whatever the hell you want to do, because you'll need all of those things. You'll need that because that's the reality. You are literally creating that holographic reality to experience. So when you consent to that reality, then you're playing by the rules of what you are literally consenting to. And so if you're lower in your level of consciousness, that is never an insult. It is never a put down in any way. It's just the truth. If you're consenting to that lower level of consciousness where there are a lot of things that can hurt you and harm you, and there's reason to be afraid energetically, then yes, you need protection. Why? Because you live in duality. Oh, let that sink in. If I choose to live in the old patriarchal world, the third dimensional world, the old earth of duality, then those things can harm me. I have to be protected. So I need to protect myself. I will need the things, the crystals and the angel bubbles and the whatevers, the saints to come. I will need to pray. I will need the things to protect myself because I'm consenting and choosing to live in a reality where that's what I need because I'm living in a reality of duality. Duality is a made up bullshit reality that you can choose to live in or not. It isn't when you just are incarnated here. That's what it is when you incarnate on earth. That's a load of bullshit. It's what we've created. And then you consent and continue to create it by choosing the dualistic nature of living on this planet. You don't have to live that way. You could become a being of oneness consciousness. And with a being of oneness consciousness, it doesn't mean differences, different things don't exist simultaneously, all as truths at one time. But there's no such thing as psychically attacking and harming God itself. And every one of us is God incarnated. So you can't harm me when I live on a vibrational frequency that I know what I am. And I live in oneness with you versus opposing you. When I live in oneness with you, you can't harm me. You thinking that you can harm me psychically is fucking hilarious. Go ahead and try all you want to. All you're doing is creating karma for yourself because you're choosing to live in duality. I am not. I don't consent to that. So you will create, with all of your attacking of someone else, all of the fucking karma that's going to come back and hit you with a heavy hand. And you're going to receive everything you're trying to create for someone else because you live in a system of duality. But when I live in oneness, you can't affect me.
That's incredible. And it just makes me think of the word anti-fragile. When you really elevate to a level that you're speaking of, your that stuff, if it comes at you, what you're saying is vibrationally, it can't penetrate because there's
Yes.
nothing for it to kind of grab onto, and
Yes.
it will karmically just end up turning back around and going back to the person that's creating it in the first
Yes.
place. Now, this is something I've experienced, and we don't have to get deep into those experiences, but I have had experiences with dark entities and stuff like that.
Yes.
And every time that I've had an experience like that, it's always, it feels like it's feeding on some aspect of my wounding, or my
Yes.
ego, which might be classified as the same thing. So could you just take us into exactly the mechanism behind that, and take us deeper there? I'd love that.
Yes. Let me first say this because you hit on something really key. When somebody is creating that for you, like if they're trying to attack you and sending you negative energy and negative thoughts and, they want harm, I hope you fail, whatever they're sending to you, they're actually creating all of that for themselves. They think they're creating it for you. They're the ones who see themselves as separate from you. That's duality consciousness, separation consciousness, patriarchal consciousness, all means the same thing. Right? So I want everybody to let that sink in for a minute. When somebody wants to do you harm, they see themselves as separate from you. You're separate from me, and fuck you. So they want to attack you. They're mad at you. They're jealous of you. They're whatever. Okay. They want to do you harm, or they want harm to come to you. So they're sending those psychic attacks. They see themselves as separate from you. All they're doing, because they're the ones that live in separation, they are creating karma. Everything they're creating to attack you, they're actually creating that for themselves because they see themselves as separate. When you're a being of oneness, and you realize everything comes from the same source, even the ones who have disconnected themselves and have really disconnected themselves from the source, the creator of all that is, what we all are innately, that they are creating negative, harmful, evil, sadistic, terrible, awful things. Okay. But when you live in oneness, you realize, oh, they've really strayed. No excuse for what they do. We're never doing that. But they've strayed, but they're still come from the same source. They're still me, and I'm still them. Even though in this human form, for example, I would never choose to do and be what they're being. That is a human choice, a human reality. In the ultimate reality, as the way of truth, they're still me and I'm still them because we're all God. So when you live as a being of oneness, not separation, you see that somebody incarnated in this form might be very lost and on a very evil, dark, negative path that I would never go down in this lifetime. And yet I can still see us from the way of truth, one of the 20 universal ways of oneness. I can still see us as the truth of what we are. We are still one. Okay. So that means even when a negative entity comes near you, because if they exist, guys, everyone, let's make it simple. They're real. They exist. They absolutely are real and they exist. All different kinds of them exist, including demons. Like they're real. Okay. And those things that come near you, they will come near you for many reasons. And one, they're attracted to your darkness if you're unhealed. They're attracted to your wounds, your trauma that you have unhealed, right? So that's why the number one thing to do, authenticity here, the frequency of authenticity, when you are on an authentic path of true, actual awakening, that is a metaphysical path. That is a hardworking, devote yourself, go inside, internally, inside, within. I have to heal myself and elevate my level of consciousness first and foremost. When I do that, anything negative that wants to come around and latch on to your traumas, your unhealed wounds, your negative programming, your programs of inequality, your programs of judgment, of jealousy, of whatever. Yeah, those dark, evil energies, they are a vibrational frequency. Of course, they're a match to what you got going on inside of you. That's how they can come in. because there is something inside of you that vibratory is a vibratory match. You have a vibratory signature. And part of what makes up the whole of you is that trauma, that negativity, that judgment, that superiority program, for example. And if that exists in you, those entities, those quote unquote negative dark entities, they have something to latch onto because that's the same frequency that they are. That's how they come in and they get to feed off of you. The other thing that will happen, some of them will come towards people who really are elevated of the light because they're hoping to scare them, quote unquote, to scare them back down into a fear-based reality. If they can scare you into going into fear and they trick you and scare you into going into a fear-based reality, you're now vibrating, you're at a vibratory level, a frequency of fear. That means you're in powerlessness, that means you're in weakness, you are disconnected from the God that you are, from the divinity that you are. They just tricked you into disconnecting from your divine power. And if they can trick you and scare you into doing that, and you go into fear and oh no, and is it going to hurt me? Oh no, what does this mean? If you go into that crap, they did very successfully what they came to do, which is scare you into a lower vibrational frequency. And that's when they can latch onto you and have an effect on you. If you just realize, oh, it's like taking a 2-year-old and putting them in a nasty goblin Halloween costume. Being like, are you really that scared of that thing? Seriously? It's like, nice try, cutie, but come on, get the stupid costume off. This is a demonic holiday anyway. You've all been brainwashed to celebrate it. That's a different topic, maybe for another day. If you wake up for real, you won't celebrate that holiday anymore. But it's still a good analogy and a good example. Demons and evil think, like, guys, listen, if you're connected to the power, the divine power that you actually are, and that means to realize what you are and live from that vibration, they can't do anything to you. There's nothing they can do to affect your life or hurt you. They just can't.
Now, I know I've listened to some people who will say that these entities, these dark forces, believe they're doing good because they're helping you find your power, helping you actually elevate out of that fear-based frequency. And when I've experienced this, I can see there is like a little bit of an argument for that, of like, oh yeah, now I've got this thing kind of like working through me. It is because I'm on this path, highlighting to me, oh, I've still got a lot of work to do in this area of my life because this has happened to me and I need to heal this. But like, could you take us on a deeper teaching there of what that actually means? And I'm from what I've learned from you and guessing is people use that as probably a bypass from actually doing the real work.
Well, yeah. That's just absolutely ridiculous because they don't understand. Anybody saying that doesn't understand energetics at the level, at the quantum level. They just, and I don't mean just you've learned quantum physics. I mean applied energetics. And that's what we do here at Masters of Self University. It's what I teach. So, and this isn't an insult to them. I'm never putting anybody down. I am waking everybody up to the truth, though. This is real high level spiritual, metaphysical education. It isn't just some collective, oh, this sounds really nice, so let's put this out because I'll get more followers and people won't be so afraid of demons and shit. Get out of here. Let's wake up. There's nothing to be afraid of if you're connected to your divine power. And if you're not, that's okay. You see the level that you're at. So let's dive into some energetics. Okay. I've already mentioned everything is energy. Everything vibrates at a certain frequency. If you have a leech, an intruder, an invasion, a vampire, let's say it's a demon, some dark entity that's latching onto you, are they there to lovingly help you? That's the dumbest fucking shit I've ever heard in my life. I mean, come on. Right? So those people trying to teach that, they don't know what they're talking about. They just want to sound good so people don't go into fear because then they get more followers and maybe you'll pay for their program. That kind of crap. Guys, if you're not a true actual teacher that knows what they're talking about, you need to learn as Earth splits in two, you're really going to end up on the old one because we have to be more responsible and integrous with what we're teaching people. That's a load of crap. That doesn't even make any sense when it comes to energetics. Nothing is personal when it comes to energy. Evil is evil. Fear is fear. Those are just vibrational frequencies. If I'm an energy vampire and I want to use you and I want to suck the life force energy out of you for my benefit, am I showing up to lovingly help you. That's fucking ridiculous. No, the demon itself isn't coming from a place of love. If it was, it wouldn't be a fucking demon. Hello? Let's use some practical common sense when it comes to this. And I'm putting it that bluntly because I want to show the people listening how easy it is to be brainwashed. If you don't want to be brainwashed, you should take that course at Masters of Self University. We have a course teach you how never to be brainwashed again by anybody, including our government. Understanding energetics means if I make the free will choice. Now, here's the place of power where I'm sure whoever you heard that from, Danny, probably I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that they're at least attempting to come from this place. Okay. I am every human right now as I say this. I have free will choice and I can choose no matter what the situation is, what the life experience is. I can choose to be more powerful, to become more powerful, to elevate. I can choose to rise. I can choose to learn from it. I can choose to grow and expand. I can take a really terrible, shitty fucking situation and I can choose to become more powerful and healed and more elevated in a higher level of consciousness despite the situation. That's my free will choice. That's a perspective I can simply choose to have. Oh my God, I was overrun by a demon. I was going through depression and this terrible thing came into my life and it was awful, awful. But you know what? I chose to heal, become more powerful, connect to my divinity, et cetera, et cetera. I chose that. Let's give people fucking credit instead of giving credit, religion-based brainwashing, even if you're not religious, instead of giving credit to everything outside of ourselves, including we're going to give credit to demons now, to everything outside of ourselves. So, let's give credit to the demon. They were really helping me. They weren't there to fucking help you, people. That's not what they do. They're there to use you and abuse you and take from you as long as you fucking let them. There is a consent there. You're allowing them because the only way to not consent to that is to raise your vibrational frequency, heal, and elevate so they can't come near you. See how we don't want to give credit to our own divinity? This is the brainwashing of all religions and all the governments and leaders of the entire world. Religion, oh, you think they're all about God. No, they're not. They're about disconnecting you from God. So they want you always giving credit to everything outside of yourself instead of saying, oh, you know what? The power of God, I am that. I can just connect to my divinity. I can heal. I can elevate. I can rise above. I can grow my light. I can become so vibrationally expansive of a being of light because that's what I truly am innately anyway. And then this thing can't leech off of me anymore. And I did that. I give credit to me for rising above. And that's what we need to start doing is acknowledging the God creator inside of each one of us, because the more we do that, the less we can be brainwashed by all this shit and the less we can be influenced by any dark, negative, evil, anything, including all the governments of the world.
Yeah, and religion has brilliantly done that to everybody, like to the point
Yep.
where when you say to them, like, I will never forget this. Like, my mother grew up very devout Christian, huge Bible supporter, reader. And I said to her one time, you are God. We all are. And she flipped out on me. Like, she just went crazy on me. And that's what I experienced from a lot of people that are religious. How dare you say that? How dare you say that I'm God? Like, as if that was blasphemy,
Blasphemy.
Oh, and what it's blasphemy what you guys are doing. Like the fact that you don't think that you are a piece of the creator that's crazy. But that's what religion has done to everybody. And that's
Yep.
what keeps them disconnected. And then they'll never go and actually find that they're a divinity themselves.
Exactly.
Oh my God. When you awaken to the agenda, it all makes sense.
Yep.
It's like I was growing up religion, it never clicked for me, but I was like forced to believe it. And then it wasn't until I actually started finding truth where I was like, that everything that you teach, everything that I read that aligns with truth, that makes sense to me. Like clicks, all connects.
Absolutely. It's all part of the agenda. And remember, brainwashing, you don't know you're brainwashed. I think people kind of forget that. Like, hello, do we understand the definition of what brainwashing is? You don't know that you are. That's the point of it. So you can then be manipulated and controlled. And having just this unwavering, they present it as this unwavering faith. What faith? Have faith. Have faith. Well, blind faith is the same thing vibrationally as having no faith. That's not the way of loyalty. Of the 20 universal ways of oneness, one of the ways of oneness is the way of loyalty. That's divine loyalty. That is an enlightened level of loyalty, of what I won't use the word faith in that, because it isn't the same thing. It's been corrupted. That word's been corrupted. Having the way of loyalty doesn't mean you lack the ability to critically think. It's a free will choice to be loyal in such a divine way. And loyal to what? Divinity itself. And what does it even mean? What does that even mean? Well, you don't know what it means intellectually, just coming from your mind. Nobody does. That's when you have to rely on blind faith. And your priests and your pastors and all the men of the world telling you what you need to think and how to behave. I mean, come on. That's like believing the Trinity is the fucking Father, Son, Holy Ghost bullshit. All about men, 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 men. Really? Are we that dumb? But that's the brainwashing, that we don't question. We don't critically think. Right? Because, but in case, spoiler alert, it's not what the Trinity is. It's not what the Trinity is. Right? But it's going into understanding I can critically think, but don't make the mistake of trying to critically think when you're brainwashed already and trapped in your mind. Critically thinking in a divine way, in an elevated, highly conscious way, means I do the inner work. I become energetically higher levels of vibrational frequency so that I myself move through the experience of evolving into something higher. When I move through that experience of evolving into something higher, I now have contrast of who I was a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. I can see through for myself. Through this experience, I see myself, the becoming of something greater. How do I feel? What is my life like now? Because the feedback of your life and your reality starts to show you how you've evolved. Now you get to look back on what your life was, who you were, say, a year ago, and you get to have this feedback of contrast. How miserable was I then? How much anxiety did I have then? Was I trapped in depression back then? How do I feel about myself now? How is my life different since I started to elevate at the energetic level, the level where everybody's been brainwashed not to acknowledge, not to believe in, and not to function in? And where does that start? That starts with your own emotions. You can't even handle and work with your own emotions. You'll never evolve into a highly conscious being because it's all energetically impossible.
Yeah.
I'd love to, Elle, I'd love to talk about this idea of a curse. Now we're talking about psychic protection. So,
Yep.
based off what you shared so far, if somebody puts a curse on me, let's say, and I am still at a level in my consciousness of whether it's conscious or unconsciously consent. And that's, I think, an important distinction that we need to go into, because I can be in my head and be like, oh, I don't consent to that reality.
Right.
But I can have a bunch of programs in my blind spot, not realizing that I'm in fear and powerlessness
Yes.
that are actually running the show, right? And that's what
Yes.
you help us. You've taught us to go into, and that's what we teach through the power within. It's like being able to see, okay, well, I think I'm showing up this way, but how am I actually showing up?
Yes.
What are the actual programs that I'm running, right? So that's an important distinction
Yes.
to like
Beautiful.
bring into this, right? About a curse. But if somebody puts a curse on me, if I am consciously or unconsciously consenting to a reality that a curse can operate
Exists.
within,
Yes.
I allow that curse, and therefore I need a black magic or somebody to reverse the curse in order to remove that curse, versus elevating my consciousness to a level that a curse just simply isn't in my reality. Is that what
Exactly.
you kind of
Yes.
guide us through?
Absolutely. And to add to that, because that was beautiful and that was absolutely perfect, very accurate. to add to that, you could be moving through a reality where you didn't realize you allowed and consented to curses. That's a certain vibrational frequency. So if you're in a vibrational frequency where you have programs and wounds, there's nothing I can do. This is why it is so critical to do the work that we teach you at Masters of Self University, because you might have programs that are complete. You have no way on the surface to connect the dots. You might have a 3-year-old version of you that is witnessing, his or her parents yelling and fighting. Okay. And, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. What do I do? I'm powerless. I'm just a child. There's your powerlessness program. And there's a program that starts to get set in there on a vibrational frequency of, there's nothing I can do. I can't make them stop screaming. Oh my God, they're yelling. All the energy is so terrible. All this is abuse. All whatever. You're growing up in an environment where I can't change it. I'm powerless. There's nothing I can do. What am I going to do? And all of these mental programs, emotional programs that develop and are created, they're all energetic. Energy never dies. It can only be transformed. That's now in there. So you are actually living in a reality where somebody can do something to you, like a curse. And then you're just consenting to it. Why? Because I can't change it otherwise. There's nothing I can do. I'm a victim of this. So something as simple as your parents fighting when you're little, I'm a victim of this. All of these programs get created. Now, is that the same vibrational frequency of a reality that believes that they can curse you and harm you and affect you in a negative way and you can't do anything about it? That's a victimizer victim experience. And you're consenting to the million ways that victimizer and victim show up in a reality that includes those vibrational frequencies. You're consenting to it. And like Danny said so perfectly, whether consciously or unconsciously, that's an unconscious consent. It's still consent because of the way our reality works on an energetic level. If I no longer consent to that, I'm willing to do the work on myself to heal everything in me that lacks power.
And what's the difference there between spiritual protection and what we're speaking of?
Oh, good question. So what I call typically referred to as divine protection isn't oh my God, I'm so weak and pathetic. I can't protect myself. I'm a low vibrational frequency. I'm a victim. Help me, angels. I need your help. I can't do it myself. God, help me. Oh my God, Archangel Michael. Okay. Spiritual protection. That is usually where people are coming from. Again, they're coming from such a brainwashed place of powerlessness where you're like, I can't do anything to protect myself. Please, God, Jesus, help me, and then you're praying to something outside of you to help you. No, I need to make this distinction. It's very important. As an incredibly powerful divine creator being, when you actually realize what that means and you become that, not just on an intellectual level and think you know what it means, you've become it energetically, vibrationally. That's how you vibrate. That's the resonance you are. Okay. Vibratory resonance. When you become that vibratory signature, you also experience, because this is oneness, there's certain things in this whole collective reality because you're so powerful that we don't want to affect you. And because you're so powerful, meaning your divinity, you live as a divine one. We will help make sure those things in the collective don't come near you. That is a oneness relationship. That is a partnership of oneness. And of course, those exchanges take place. Okay. Now, when we're lower levels of consciousness, it can be hard to understand. Just the mind can't grasp this. How's that different from it is? You feel the energetic difference. Okay. So there is a relationship, a mutual relationship of the way of honoring, of the way of harmony, of the way of purity. While I am in human form, there are certain things that you, the divine team that is the formless, that is the invisible to our naked eye, that divine team or that Archangel Michael or those archangel, whatever, they will do things to work with you at any given time when you don't come from helplessness, neediness, weakness, powerlessness. You're like, hey, you know what? We're just automatically going to protect you from certain weird, crazy shit in the world because you do emanate at this high level. That is now a oneness, mutual way of honoring relationship where they automatically do that for you. Why? Because you automatically do it for yourself. When you live that way for yourself and for others, that's the relationship you automatically have with your divine team or with angels or with ascended masters. It's a mutual, beautiful relationship of oneness. So that divine protection is going to be there. And it's a, hey, I don't know what's going on in the world. If there's anything extra I might benefit from, could you hook a girl up? And it's just automatically, yeah, of course. Don't worry, you're divinely protected. Because I'm protecting myself. What does that mean? I do the healing and the raising of level of consciousness that I need to do with myself, within myself, in order to be a being of divinity on this planet. I'm still in human form. I can still fall and break my ankle. That's a human experience. It doesn't mean you're not human, but there's a different relationship when it comes to language is limiting, divine protection. Oh, I'm so scared. I can't do anything. Please, I'm praying on my hands and knees. Stop. Knock that fucking shit off, children. Quit it in all your weakness and your brainwashed bullshit of duality and pray to something outside of you. You are God incarnated. And as such, you work really well with others. And that includes your invisible divine team. Of course, they're there to quote unquote protect you, but there's a different definition that we evolve into. We understand protection at a much higher level. It isn't because I'm weak and pathetic and can't. It's because in the way of honoring, of course, I would protect you. No different that if somebody was going to go harm my dog or you saw somebody about to hit a child, you'd throw yourself in front of them. Like you would protect that animal. You would protect that child. You would protect that woman from getting punched by that man again. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a level of, I am showing a divine level, the way of honoring to you, and I will help you in this moment if you need my help. So it's a different definition that we have to allow ourselves to evolve into to understand it. When we're a little bit lower, it's still really hard to wrap our minds around. That's not an insult to anybody, but if it's a little struggle for anybody, don't get frustrated. Just breathe and keep healing and elevating yourself, and you'll get it. You'll live it at some point.
And Rachel, I'd like for you to dive into a little bit too, because I have a lot of friends and things like I don't have a lot of friends, but I have people in my life that they'll say things like, "Well, I asked my spirit guide," and or how entities act like archangels, or how they
Yes.
act like Jesus,
Yes.
and things like that. And then it's another way where they sneak in because at the foundation is you have no connection to your inner self, right? There's no
Yes.
connection to your divine self. So a lot of people can get tricked and swayed and
Yep.
brainwashed by these entities thinking it's this and that. This is probably, this is everything that you teach, but for those people out there who are constantly relying, well, Jesus talks to me and this talks to me and this deity and this
Yes.
entity. I'd love for you to go into that because in that too, there's so much
Yes.
that is in their blind spot.
Absolutely. You're just opening yourself up to being brainwashed and manipulated, first of all, because you haven't yet learned to make what the way of connection, to become the way of connection. The way, that vibrational frequency, that of the 20 universal ways of oneness, it's one of the ways. The way of connection, first and foremost, is my internal connection to the God that I am, my divinity. And I learn what my divinity, what my imprint, there's a vibratory signature of my divinity, and I get used to that. You learn it, you feel it. It's a tangible thing that you feel and you experience. And then there's a higher version of you, your soul, that has a vibratory signature. That has a vibrational frequency where you're like, that's my soul, me, the higher me who is experiencing this reality through the human me. You need to learn what she feels like, what he feels like. Who is that? What do they feel like? How do you know that that's who's communicating with you right now is your soul? You're already a divine being. You don't need a motherfucking ascended master, people, or another fucking deity. You don't need them. And it doesn't mean they don't exist, and it doesn't mean there's not a benefit to them, but you can't get to that because you have to wade through all of the other things that exist that will, oh, I'm Jesus. Oh my God, I feel so special. I'm in my spiritual ego. I talk to Jesus. Shut the fuck up. For the love of Christ, knock it off, people. You're not special because you can communicate psychically. Everyone can. So let's get out of the spiritual ego because we leave ourselves open and vulnerable to actually being attacked when we're that low of a consciousness that we don't want to admit we're at. Remember, we're consenting to these vibrational frequencies, to these realities. We're consenting to a reality where I can be controlled and manipulated by something outside of myself. Why and how am I consenting to that reality? Because I believe in my ego, I either need something outside of me because I'm weak and small, or I'm in my ego on the other side of the same coin, is I feel special. I'm so special because I can do this. The two sides of the same coin. When you're in your ego, you are a lower level of consciousness. That means you consent to open up to entities coming in and manipulating you, pretending like they're an ascended master. You cannot evolve out of that, those realities that exist that you're consenting to participate in. You can't evolve out of that until you first go inside and learn how to work with your own divinity, to acknowledge and remember you are a divine one. You learn what that voice sounds like, what that energy feels like when she talks to you, when she guides you, when she leads you. What is that energy's way to guide you? Because when you get familiar with that and then something else tries to come in, you check with your own damn soul. I don't care, Jesus, get out of here. He's one of my favorite people that ever existed, by the way. I fucking love Jesus. And let me tell you what, somebody comes in, I'm Jesus, get the fuck out of here. I will check with my soul, first of all, if you're Jesus or not. And if my soul says you're not, you're fucking not. This is becoming the way of trust. You trust in your own divinity, for Christ's sake. That's what people need to wake up to. You learn to trust your own divinity, and you have to evolve enough to discern the difference between your stupid little spiritual fucking ego and your true divinity. You have to mature through those levels first. And then you're able to look back and say, oh my God, that time that I thought that was Jesus, that was some psychopathic, fucking evil, weird, gray alien thing that was trying to take over my body. Oh, and then there was one other time where Jesus actually came and visited. And now I know the difference. Why? Because I know my own divinity. And we stop looking at teachers and masters, right? Like, follow me, I am the way. Jesus never taught you to blindly follow like a stupid fucking idiot whatever the fuck someone else told you he came here to teach you. You're not even listening to him. Follow me, I am the way means I've already achieved this. I'll teach you how to achieve what I've already achieved. And it always means going within yourself and looking at your own divinity and acknowledging it, learning it, connecting to it, and allowing that to be your guiding light. When you can do that, guess what? Your relationship with deities and ascended masters and different whatevers, that will be a very different relationship. It'll be the way of purity. And you also realize you don't need them that much, but they are always there to guide you if you would like them to. It's a very different, mature, divinely mature relationship that you can have.
And, you know, it always comes back to this thing that you always say, and I feel like I'm always sharing with clients of mine that are moving through this work, is what is the energy that you're coming from? And like, that is one of the things that I always hear constantly in my head. Whenever I'm learning more, whenever I'm answering questions for clients that I'm helping, it's, well, what energy are you coming from? Because it's really easy to think that you're coming from a certain energy. And I'd love here to share, like, this was one of the troubles that I had a year and a half ago. I was currently taking at the time the Ways of Oneness class from you, and I'd heard all this stuff about, oh, you have the power to alchemize demons. And this was the first like true experience that I had. And I've not actually shared about this on the podcast yet because I'm still integrating parts of it. And I, in my mind, had heard what you had said, that you become the way of purity. And from that way, you do have the power. I truly believe that we do have the power to alchemize demons. But I'd not actually gone through the energetic process of becoming that. And so I'd opened myself up to, it started to work through me, this particular entity, and it was feeding me certain, I guess, manipulative lies that I thought were my own thoughts. And I'd love to get into that. Like that's how I found they operate, at least within me. It's like, it's not some outside voice that you hear when you're deeply unconscious. Maybe as you elevate, at your level, Rachel, you can clearly tell like, oh, this is something else speaking either through me or to me. But from where I was at, it feels like my own thoughts. And so it started to kind of manipulate me into thinking I was powerful enough. And in that, I opened myself up to kind of let it in. And then I went through a very this whole traumatic experience of allowing it in. And I was just lost in my head until you kind of brought me back to reality. Thank goodness. But if we, at that time, if we don't actually have that divine connection to our heart, then we're still in our minds thinking, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, because we can hear everything Rachel's saying, but if we're just connected to what you're saying at the level of mind, we can actually open ourselves up to being susceptible to allow these things to come in. And this is what happened to me. It's very different to hear what you're saying from your mind and think that you know it, versus actually move through the energetic process of becoming the way of connection, which is a very, very different thing.
Precisely. That is precisely it. And it's why, you guys, when I'm on here, I often will say to you, take the classes, because listen, the podcast here is wonderful. It's beautiful. We want to offer what we can offer here for free, just for anybody to tune into and all of that. And that's great. It is not filling your head with a bunch of intellectual knowledge. You cannot achieve anything that is offered in this podcast. There is a process energetically to learn, to move through and become. And that's why I always say, go to mastersselfuniversity.com, go sign up for our classes, because the classes aren't just learning a bunch of intellectual crap. I don't give a shit about what you can memorize, what you can regurgitate. It means nothing about you as a being. It means you have a great memory, maybe. But this is different. And it's different for a reason. It's a metaphysical university for a reason. You energetically elevate to a different frequency every time you evolve and take one of our courses, when you are willing to do the work to become. That's what we teach. It's a very tangible energetic experience. And I'm hitting that home for a reason, because Danny's example is just beautiful. That when you are still trapped in your mind, just trying to gain a bunch of knowledge, and 25 podcasts a week you're listening to, and you want to take this course and that course and 19 other courses, and you're just gaining knowledge, you are not then, quote unquote, protecting yourself from what we're talking about. You then do need psychic and spiritual protection, because you're living in a reality that you're creating and you are also consenting to, where you don't have the power to be anything but mind controlled or manipulated or influenced, versus you becoming the divinity that you actually are. When you integrate and match up your human self with your divine self, that is when you become a sovereign being. And you living as that sovereign being is how things cannot come near you and influence you, and and do the whole mind control or influence your thoughts. It doesn't work that way energetically. They can't. But in order for that to be your reality, you have to evolve. Like, let's say there's 100-story building, okay? And in the first 10 levels, there's demons and evil things and negative influences that even if you move up to the 3rd floor, you're still within the 10 levels where things can affect you like that. So you have to keep moving, and you have your lease for the next year. You can't move to the 4th floor, or you can't move to the 12th floor for a whole nother year. What do you do in the meantime? Right? It's like you have to understand that this is a becoming, and a becoming can't happen in your mind. If you only do it from the level of mind, you're either going to go batshit, woo-hoo, completely crazy, or you're going to be completely influenced and taken over by entities that can use you and manipulate you because you're easily brainwashed. Right? So rise up to a level that is higher than that is an energetic becoming. I don't care how much you think you know. Your entire vibratory existence has to transform. And how do you start that is by deprogramming, healing your traumas, and connecting to your own divinity instead of praying to shit outside of who you are. Connect to your own divinity. Right? So as Danny learned and became more energetically connected to his own divinity, then some negative, weird demon thing can't come near him and like trick him anymore because he did the work. And for him, it was a beautiful experience. That experience allowed him to witness what it's like to still be in your mind with a lot of things versus anchored, not just dropping into your heart, but now anchored and living from your heart. Right? You're anchored and living from your heart. You're fully connected to your divinity. That doesn't mean you don't have a shitty day or go through a challenge or, oh, there's still a little bit more that needs to be healed. But when you're anchored into your heart, you can't be affected in the same way. Get out of your mind, people. Drop into your heart.
Yeah, this is just reminding me of in the beginning of, this path for me. I was meeting all of these women and men that were psychics and they were channeling all of these things. But what I've realized about them was that they were showing up in the world very judgmental and hating people and all of these things. And I was really confused because I was like, how are you so psychic and you can channel all of these ascended masters and things like that? And yet in the world, you treat people horribly or you gossip or you do all the, it was very confusing for me. And it wasn't until I started to stay away from them and I found you where I was like, if you're not the first way, if you're not the way of responsibility with your stuff, you are no way, which means you're actually not doing any work on yourself. So it doesn't matter what you're channeling or what's coming through or how much you're charging people so they can get messages. It's like all of that stuff is being filtered through all of your wounds and your programs,
Yep.
which means what you're giving to the world is shit. Right.
Yes.
And so what it comes down to is you got to start doing the work on yourself. That's
Yep.
the answer but again too, and this is something we talk about a lot, Rachel, there's so many piecemeals, is that the word, like out there, right? So there's a little bit of this and there's a little bit of that. And I
Yes.
was walking around for 4 years confused as hell. Like I was like, okay, so I'm trying to integrate all of these things, but I'm so confused and I'm actually not getting anywhere. I felt like I was constantly in like mud. Like no matter how much I try to get out of the mud with everything I was learning or whatever, like I couldn't get out. And that's when I literally started saying, like, please guide me to somebody that's actually going to teach me how to do the real work because I'm lost. And I can see that there's so many people out there that there is not a concrete spiritual education on how to get from A to Z. There is none.
Exactly.
And that's why this work and MSU and everything that we're offering is crucial, because what we teach you is connect to your internal divine power and let's take it step by step to be on the path of evolution. But I can see why so many people are so lost because there is no actual true spiritual education until now, obviously.
Yeah. And that's all done by design. Remember, like I want everybody listening to remember that's been done by design to keep everybody confused so that you can't put all the pieces together, so that you get a little bit here and a little crumb there. And then you're like, how do I weave all this in that it makes sense? They've prevented, what used to be called mystery schools. They've prevented the wisdom of the universe to be passed down and taught generation to generation. They've cut that off because that we were born into a system of enslavement. And the only way to outgrow and to alchemize a system of enslavement, you first have to be enslaved and experience what it is. And then you awaken for real. And those of us who came here to be the authentic teachers of a new earth, This is what we create. This is why I've created what I've created at Masters of Self University. This is a metaphysical school where you are in whatever grade you start at, you master that grade, you go to the next level up. You go to that next grade, you master that, you're ready for the next grade. And then you just keep elevating and elevating as high as you want to go. How high you want to go is up to you. Nobody here to control that for you. That's your free will choice. But at least now people have a place to go to where they can master the lower levels, become balanced within themselves, have that equilibrium. That's an aspect of the way of equality, is to have equilibrium within myself. My divine self and my human self are now integrated. That brings balance. I'm grounded into this earthly experience while being connected to the highest form of wisdom and divinity. I can be both. That's oneness. Any other way to learn is piecemeal or people doing their best because this is what we have to work with, or it's all the plants and the ones there to take you off the real authentic spiritual path. They're planted for a reason too. Just because it's spiritual doesn't mean it's divine. Like, let's wake up for real. Just because it's spiritual people doing spiritual things or have some spiritual podcast or spiritual whatever the fuck they have to offer you doesn't mean it's actually divine. It's more confusion to keep people enslaved, and it's mind control where people offer you a degree of truth so that you can't tell the difference. And why can't you tell the difference? Because you keep looking out there. That's why everything, the first level of what we teach you in the first courses you take at our metaphysical university is you learn to connect to the power within. That's why we call it the power within. Pretty practical, isn't it? And that's for a reason, because you have to learn how to connect to the power that you are, because that's what you are innately. But when you're disconnected from it energetically, you're trapped in a system of suffering, survival, scarcity. You're trapped in a system where you need psychic protection or spiritual protection from those outside of you and from your crystals and all the shit that you have. Yeah, you need it. Use it. But when you're connected to the power that you are and you master that base level, that foundational level, oh my God, life starts to change. And then you're ready to go to the next level higher. And then life starts to change even more. And then you're healed and you feel more free and more fluid and more connected to the universe. Oh, this is what a true spiritual education is. It isn't you learn everything in a fucking weekend retreat. It's impossible. You devote your life to it. Why? Because the only way to experience heaven on earth with the life that you're living is to devote your life to this. This comes first. What you create and the reality that you're creating, that holographic experience that you're consenting to and that you are co-creating with everyone around you, that comes from you. So if you are lower vibrational frequencies, that's what you're consenting to, and that's going to continue to be your reality. Suffering, enslavement, scarcity, more suffering, heartache, pain. I can't get, I'm depressed. Oh, I have anxiety. Stop that shit. Master the level you're on. Go to the next level higher. Go to the next level higher. You're an eternal being. That's infinite. You can go as high as you choose to. That's your choice. But if you want your reality to be different, if you want to experience what sovereignty, what true actual freedom is, that is an energetic frequency. And then your reality, your life starts to reflect back to you what you're becoming. That's how true, authentic, metaphysical, spiritual education is all about. That's why it's been hidden from you for so long. That's why. But that's changed. You have us now. And it's just up to you if you want to actually experience what you want to experience. You can create it, but you're going to do your goddamn manifestation journal. Ugh. I mean, have fun, but how much are you going to manifest when you're damn writing it in your journal? Come on. You got to become. It's a becoming.
Or how much sage you're going to use in your house.
Invest in a lot of sage.
Yeah, I mean, Danny, you and I talk. We're so beyond excited to start the school year next year.
Yeah, we're pumped.
We're so pumped. So pumped.
Yeah, we're ready for your deeper teachings, the next level, and I just really want to be. I feel like we are immersed in it now, but more immersed in just that energy of like moving forward and learning and growing, and being around other people who are doing the same. And, for us as coaches, getting to actually offer, some guidance to all the people that are ready to receive it. Like, that's obviously why we've spent all these years training. So it's a super exciting place to be. And January can't come soon enough, for sure, because we're ready to learn.
I agree. It's an exciting, exciting time. And finally, people have a place to go where they can master their spiritual education and metaphysical education and live in a quantum reality where they realize they have control over it. That's the funnest part. And I can't wait to teach that stuff. So, go sign up for classes, people. It's going to be a load of fun.
Yes.
Yeah,
Everybody.
so
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, if anyone's interested in learning more, just follow the links below. And they're going to be in all the descriptions, and sign up for a free consultation where we can, talk through this, go through the enrollment process, and we can share with you everything that we're doing to really give back and educate people on this really deep level. So I hope to see you there.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Danny. And until next time, bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.